Record on this computer. Yes. Okay. To start with Splunk, yes, Splunk is it can be a log analyzer, or it can capture whatever logs, whatever data which is present in your computer, and it will act like a one-stop solution for all your system log files. It does indexing, right? It does indexing. What do you mean by indexing here? And say, for example, we have your, I have your computer here. So this is a computer here, and in this, say for example, we have many types of log. Yes, for your computer, you have application logs, security logs, or system related logs, event logs. You have so many log files, right? And what is a log file? I told you this. Log file will record everything, whatever happened to this computer. It is going to record every possible event which is happening inside this computer. And yes, in case you wanted to access all these logs, you have to go individually and access. And the problem with that can be, searching for a particular log, or in case you wanted to search for a particular date range, or you want to see a particular event type of log. Sometimes it can be time consuming and it might be difficult, right? So what can happen here if I install Splunk, fine? So Splunk is a software which you have to download from the Google Drive, what we have shared. So download this software, and after downloading, install this. Installation is a very simple process. It will ask you next, next, next. And during installation, it will ask you for username and password. You can give any username, you can give any password. Password should be 8 characters long, fine? Assign username and password, and then complete the installation process, right? After completing installation process, and you have to note this down, download, yes, we have specific version for 32 bits and for 64 bits. If your computer is 32-bit, download the 32-bit version and install that. In case if it is 64, then download 64 and install that, fine? So we have different versions of Splunk, which is already uploaded in the drive. So after installing, if you click launch, you'll have an icon called launch. It's like running this. When you run this, it will open up in a browser like this, right? In your browser, it will come up with the username and password, and this will be the Splunk login page, right? Just like this, just like this, right? You'll have Splunk Enterprise. This Splunk uses port number 8000, and it runs on your local host, right? So I have created my default username as admin, and password, I've kept some password, right? So after using your username and password, if you click sign in, it is going to log in. Now, I'll tell you what is the use of Splunk, right? Why companies, larger MNCs, why they go for Splunk? They have a network architecture like this. Say, for example, we'll take it as two scenarios. The first scenario where the company has 500 computers. The company has 500 computers, and all these 500 computers, they are connected to architecture like this. They have many switches, and these switches are connected with each other. And under this, they have so many computers which are connected, right? So we have a lot of computers connected here. And now they also have one server. I hope we have seen servers in Packet Tracer. Packet Tracer, you have seen servers and you have seen them configuring. So I have a specific server here. This is my server here. Now I told you, in case I wanted to look at the log files of this particular computer here, I have to log into this computer. I have to go there physically and then open event viewer, or you have a lot of event management tools in your computer to view what is happening inside the computer, fine? So I have to go individually to all the computers, to all the 500 computers. In case if I have Splunk installed in the server, right? It can act as a one-stop solution, wherein from this console window, I'll be able to manage, or I'll be able to forward all the traffic from all the computers. All the log files will be forwarded to the server here, and Splunk is going to help me in finding out what type of log files I have. How do I need to work with that? Fine. So this can act as a one-stop solution. We'll go for scenario 2. In scenario 2, wherein This company called ABC. ABC has branches worldwide. Fine, they have branches worldwide. So for India, yes, this is India, and they have two branches here. One in Delhi, another one in Bangalore. They have a branch in Paris. It's like ABC is like a showroom. It's a it's like a Reebok showroom. Fine, it's like Reebok or Levi's or any showroom which is having branches all over the world. Fine, here and in Australia. So they have around 100 branches across the globe. Fine, and the main server is located in India, and it is very obvious. Every branch will have a server. Every branch will have a server, and this server is going to manage the data of that particular branch. This server for Paris, this server for this Japan, and this server for Australia. They're going to manage all the data, and this is our main server here. So what can we do with this main server? In case if I wanted to see, we are the head team here, and now I wanted to see what is today's sales, how much of sales has been made, and how much of revenue we have made from all the branches. Right. So to do this, what should I do? I should collect the information from all these branches, ask them to send what is today's sales report, and they'll send, and then I have to calculate, and I'll come up with a result like this. But in case if we have Splunk, fine. If we have Splunk, the main Splunk is installed here. And here I'll not install Splunk main, but I'll install something called Forwarder. Forwarder is a very simple tool which is with Splunk. So what will this Forwarder do? Forwarder will just forward the traffic from here to this Splunk here. A forwarder here, a forwarder here, a forwarder here. Now Splunk can give me exact, I don't have to calculate. It gives me real-time data of how much sales has occurred, how much revenue has occurred. This is with a non-technical example, what we have seen. We'll come to a technical example, right? Now, I wanted to check in how many branches. Yes, in most of the showrooms, we use debit card or credit card to swipe. We use POC machines, POCs, yes. We use swiping machines for making payments. So technically speaking, I wanted to check how many branches, or today how many cases people have made false transactions or transactions which did not succeed, right? Transactions which didn't work. You swipe your card here and enter your PIN 1 2 3 4 and it says declined, right? So I wanted to look at the transactions like this. How much of transactions have been declined by entering a wrong PIN? In case I want to do this, and yes, if I have a architecture like this for Splunk, I can very well see this, right? And I wanted to check how many, okay, this branch has 10 computers here, right? This branch has 10 computers, and this branch has 5 computers. This branch has 15 computers. So they have a lot of computers. I wanted to check how many of them have entered the wrong password 3 times. So I have a computer here in Paris branch, or this is in US, and my salesman is going to log into this computer. He is giving his password, it is wrong. Second time he is giving, it is wrong. Third time he is giving, it is wrong. I wanted to find out the transactions like this. Yes, Splunk can give me transactions like this. So Splunk, anything which is related to data, or anything which is related to logs, Splunk can act as an excellent tool. And yes, in case if you have plans of entering into a SOC kind of analyst, SOC is Security Operations Center, right? Security Operations Center. Every company will have a Security Operations Center in place. What is the function of this Security Operations Center? It is to monitor the security risk. Which is occurring. I'll give you a very simple example. It is just like your Airtel customer care, fine? Airtel customer care, what is their job function? In case if any of the customer here is facing any issue, they can contact, immediately a ticket will be raised, ticket will be with this number, 1, 2, 3, 4, this number, and they'll monitor whether the ticket is being resolved or it is still pending. Fine. If it is resolved, it will be marked as resolved. Good. And they'll calculate the turnaround time. This person has called at 9:10 and the issue has been resolved at 11:10 a.m. So yes, the turnaround time is this. Every company will try to minimize this turnaround time. Issue has to be resolved very soon. Fine. So that the customer will be happy. Like this, IT companies will have security operations center. So they will continuously monitor their computers. And in case if this computer is attacked with the malware, right? This computer is attacked with the malware, who is going to take care of this? The SOC team is going to take care of this. The SOC team will create a report. It will say that 9:10, this particular IP address 1.10, which is in Mumbai office, got infected with this type of malware. Fine. And it has been escalated to level 2, where they are working with malware. The issue has been contained, and if they are not able to solve, it will be again escalated to level 3. So where all these level 2 and level 3 employees are working, they will be working in SOC team. Security Operations Center deals with handling security risk of any company. And for sure, in case you want to, they hire freshers, they hire experienced people. Almost all the companies hire all the levels of people, and probably you should have some knowledge of security. That is very obvious. And you should also have knowledge of tools like Splunk. Fine. They will expect knowledge of tools like Splunk. They'll ask you what is Splunk used for, how will you search this, and how you are going to create an alert. Splunk can also act like your antivirus, or it can act like your firewall. Fine. It is going to detect and it is going to intimate you. I can create alerts in Splunk. Right? I'll create alerts in Splunk so that my simple alert will be like this. If anyone gives 3 times a wrong password in their computer, right? A wrong password in computer, I can create an alert in Splunk. If anyone gives 3 times a wrong password in any of our office computer, then intimate me through email, or it can show a pop-up saying that this particular IP address, they are repeatedly giving wrong passwords, something like this. Or you wanted to prevent a brute force attack, you can create an alert. So Splunk can act in real time, and just like how when your computer when you insert a USB in your computer and your antivirus search engine suddenly pops, intimating you that we have detected a virus. Like that, for the whole network, even if it has 1,000 computers, fine. If all the 1,000 computers are connected to a server and server is running Splunk, yes, probably you'll be able to control all the security risk linked with all these 1,000 computers. Right? And so probably in case if you're looking for SOC kind of roles, yes, it is mandatory for you guys to learn Splunk. And why are we learning Splunk? Why have we included this in our networking syllabus? Is because, give me 1 minute. Because we were looking at networks. Okay, we are looking at networks. Okay, we are looking at networks, and we saw how to connect routers, how to connect switches, and how to connect firewalls, and how to connect servers. We have seen a lot of things like this. And when you want to manage the network infrastructure, when you want to manage all the devices in your network infrastructure, yes, a tool like Splunk will be used in security. Right? And the tool, the software which we have uploaded in Drive, yes, you will have, I think it is 60 days or 90 days free trial. And this tool doesn't work based on days. It works based on the amount of data which it is going to receive. I'll explain this in detail. Please listen to this carefully. Splunk, how does it work? Okay, I have installed Splunk here. And Splunk, yes, it is going to monitor 500 computers traffic. Right? It is going to analyze all the 500 computers traffic. All these traffic will be sent to Splunk software. It is a free tool, but it has its own limitations. In case if you are using it free of cost, it will not consider how many days you are using, but it will have a per day limit. So per day, for one day you will have around 512 MB of data which can come from other devices, right? And if you go for paid version, yes, this increase to 100 GB of data or 500 gigs of data based on your requirement. How many computers do you have? So the version what we have installed, per day it can index up to 512 MB of data from other computers. Once if the data bandwidth exceeds 512 MB, the tool will stop working. It will not be able to index anymore, right? So it can do real-time functionalities, real-time working. Yes, it can do. Also, you can use this in case if you if your intention of using Splunk is for your own computer. You have your own computer and you wanted to practice Splunk. What you can do, you can install Splunk in your computer as what I have told, and you can import data. What data you can import? You can import data of your own computer into Splunk, so that you can analyze what has happened to my computer, what logs, and I'll show you for how long the logs will be, the Splunk will be able to capture the logs, and how much of data is available. We'll see that in practice, right? So after you give something like this, give your username, password, sign in. After you sign in, this is your Splunk login page. Splunk login page, and you can change few options from the settings here. Settings, you can look at data inputs, you want server settings, event tags, you have so many settings here. But to start with, we'll go for add data. Add data is where you can add data either from an external source or you can add data from your own computer here. Yes, it is a web-based tool. You have to install the software, but the software runs in a browser. So it's a web-based tool and it's good. Add data. Okay, we'll skip this. So it is asking us what kind of data you want from the cloud, from networking, operating system, security. Fine. What kind of data do you want to do, or do you want to upload any files? Yes, in case you want to upload, click this option called upload. Fine. And it will ask you what type of file. We have many sample datas for Splunk. You can go for sample datas. Sample datas are available in internet. Just type Splunk sample data. You will get a lot of data which you can download and which you can analyze and which you can work. Fine. So you can add this here. I'll again go here to the page here and I'll go to settings. You go for data inputs here. Data inputs. Okay. See here, we have an option called local event log collection. This is for local event log collection, and this is remote event log collection. We are not going for remote. We'll just go for local event log collections. And it is asking us what type of logs, and this is from my computer, right? From my computer, Splunk is asking me what type of data you want. Do you want to analyze, right? So I have application logs, security logs, setup logs, system logs. I have a lot of things here. I will add all just for getting more number of data. I'll add all and indexed. Yes, it is default. We leave this to default and I'll save this. So it is saving this, and once if it is saved, it is now grabbing all the details from my computer. It's going to take some time. So after saving this, it will ask us what name do you want to give, or how do you want this data to be present. So the first example, what I showed you, yes, you can download any sample data and upload it to your Splunk and check and analyze all the data, just like Wireshark. Wireshark is going to give you network traffic. Splunk is going to give you log file traffics, right? It is going to give you all the details. Okay, Splunk daemon is not responding. Okay, we'll clear this all. We'll just go for this. I think this should do. Save. After you have uploaded all the data, then we can go for Splunk Enterprise to the search icon where you have the option to search. You need to give keywords just like how you gave keywords in Wireshark filter. So you need to start with few keywords and search the entire database of your computer and find out what result you get. Fine. Give me some time. This is save. Okay. Yes, now it is saved. The data is saved here. Local host, application, forwarded event, security, setup, and system. All these data are saved. And I'll go click this again to the main page, and I'll go to search and reporting. So now I have added a file to the database, Splunk database. Now we'll search. I'll show you how we can search, what we can do. So this is the search box, what we have for Splunk here. And see here, total events indexed is this. I'll go for data summary. And in data summary, it will show us the local files desktop. It is my computer. I have total of 1,45,806 events. I'll click this. Fine. I'll click this. After clicking this, I've got some results here. See, these are the log files. These are the log files. In case while logging in my computer, I've given a wrong password. Fine. This will show, Splunk is going to prompt with the logs that there is a invalid login or a login breach or bad password, any type of event. Fine. And what you have to note here, this is host, that is perfectly fine. But when you move to this end, this data, okay, I want to zoom. Okay, is this fine now? So this is the search box for my desktop. It has added keywords. So Splunk keywords will be like this: host is equal to keywords like this. And see here, this is only for the last 24 hours. Right? So what you have to do, you have to click this, and I'll give all time. I'll click this icon and I'll give all time. So it is going to grab details. See, it is 1 month. Okay, July. It is going to grab details from the beginning of the computer. Fine. This is not hacking. You are just analyzing the traffic of your computer. So it is not related to hacking. So you get a lot of logs like this, and I'll tell you how to include the search here. Okay, so in case you are looking only for security kind of logs, you don't want any other logs, you are looking only for this security logs, or you are concerned about this particular event code 4798, you are only concerned about this, what you can do, I'll click this. See, when I click this, it is asking me add to search or exclude from search, or you want to go for a new search. I'll say add this search because I'm concerned about only this particular event here. So what I'll do, I'll click on add to search. See here, now the event code keyword is added. In case you wanted to mention a particular event code keyword event, I'll again add this to search. So now it says event code is this. Fine, event code is this, and search. So now the log files, what I'll get is only for that particular event code, this. And in case if you find this event code for an attack which has happened, you will be able to retrieve all the information of the time of attack, what has happened, from which IP you got this attack. Every detail with regards to log files will be shown in Splunk. Fine. You can also use this for adding any of the fields, selected fields. You have different categories based on date, based on event type, index, keywords, based on message. You have so much of things which Splunk can do, right? And you can go for statistics or visualization, wherein it is going to give you a lot of different options here. I'm going for statistics. We'll create a report here, selected 3 fields. Okay. Now it is going to show you graphically what has happened, something like this. Now it has generated a report, and X is like the count of items, and Y can be time. So from this time, this particular event, where it has occurred, at what point of time it has occurred, right? Or you want to go for a different representation like this. So Splunk, in case if you have more data to analyze, Splunk can be the only source which can make things very simple for you in analyzing and processing all these data. In your PC where these data are located, you can go to Event Viewer, and in Event Viewer you will probably have logs like this. See, I've typed Event Viewer here, Event Viewer, and when you go here, when you open this, you will have Windows logs, you have application, you have security logs, you will have a lot of logs, but sometimes it will be tough for you to analyze all the logs from the default Windows application. See, you will have logs like this, you will have security logs, you might have logs like this. So rather than this, when you have Splunk, yes, it can give you better idea of how to analyze the data, how to intercept the data, and how to produce it in a proper report format. And you have different options like this. So this is a graphical representation. I'll show you this Splunk dashboard. This can be a dashboard for any corporate. Fine. So this is real time. This is real time. Okay, this is about exercise. We'll go for sales report, something like this. So it is going to show you in real time how much of sales is done, from which place, from where the sales is done, and what kind of. You can customize this. Companies customize Splunk based on their requirement. What do they need? How do they need? So it will help you in analyzing real-time data with no restrictions, and you can analyze everything at ease. Fine. So Splunk, yes, you can analyze your data. You can analyze data. These data can be a normal data, or these data can be a security log kind of data which is being used, and for a lot of different purpose. And you have so much of things in Splunk to learn about. You can create this as an alert. You can say whenever this particular code, this particular event, if this particular event code has occurred, please raise an alert. You can add this to an alert, and whenever this particular event type occurs, you will either be notified through email, or Splunk itself will pop up and it will show that this event has occurred in this particular computer. And you can, in case you want to act for this, or you want to stop the event, yes, it can be one of the useful tools, right? So this is with useful, how it is useful for an individual, yes. In case if you are a security professional and you wanted to analyze the log files of your own computer, right? You wanted to see what has happened to your computer, and if something bad has happened, or is there any malicious events which are occurring, yes, Splunk can also be used for that purpose. Fine. So after this, we have IDS and IPS. So I'll tell you what is IDS and IPS. IDS, it is intrusion detection system. IDS is intrusion detection system. IPS is intrusion prevention system. Fine. Technically, it has a lot of meaning, but for your understanding, I'll tell IDS is intrusion detection. It can only detect. It can only detect. It cannot prevent. Whereas IPS is intrusion prevention system, where it can detect and it can prevent that event from occurring. Say, my computer here, and I have installed Wireshark. Yes, we have seen Wireshark. Wireshark is like IDS. It is intrusion detection system. Means it is not intrusion detection system, but it can act like IDS. Why? Because it will show you what is happening, what packet you get, what packet you send. It will show you everything. But can Wireshark prevent any of these from happening? No. It is just like a CCTV camera which records everything. So after recording, you can make use of the data. That's it. It can only detect. It cannot prevent. If you have an antivirus which is installed in your computer, that can act like an IPS, intrusion prevention system. There is a malware which is trying to enter your computer, what will your antivirus will do? Antivirus will stop this, and it will notify you. It will notify you stating that there is such malware, there is a virus file which is trying to enter your computer. What should I do? Should I delete this? Should I quarantine this? Or what should I do? It is going to ask you things like this. Yes. So that can be of IPS. Firewalls have inbuilt IDS and IPS which can be integrated in this, right? It can be an integrated module of this, just like your DHCP server, just like your access control list, just like VLAN which is integrated. You have IDS and IPS which can also be integrated and linked with this. Fine. Now, we have one more concept called honeypot. Honeypot. So, what do you mean by honeypot? Honeypot, non-technically speaking, it's a pot filled with honey. Fine. It's a pot filled with honey, and this pot is open. When a pot is filled with honey and you keep it outside, what will happen? You will have flies, you will have insects, you will have a lot of things will come, and probably they'll try to consume this honey. Some will get stuck in the honey. Fine. So they think it's a food, but it's actually a trap. That is honeypot. Technically speaking, I have a server, and what is the attacker looking for? This attacker here, he is looking for open ports. He is looking for open ports. He is searching which port is open. Why? If, okay, port number 23 is open. Port number 23 is open. He is very happy. He is very happy. And what he does, he tries to exploit this. He tries to perform a lot of different attacks through this port, right? And yes, in case if he is successful, he will be able to compromise the server. Now, what is the function of honeypot here? Honeypot can be something like this, where my port 23 is not actually open, but I'll project it. I'll project to the outside world that I have a vulnerable port which is open. And why will a server do this? What is the need for a server to open up a port which is not actually open? But why should I show to everyone, to the whole world, that this particular port is open? Why? Because that is where I'll try to identify persons who are trying to scan my network, right? Who are trying to scan my network and who are trying to attack me. I have this port open. I have projected that this port is open. And when someone tries to attack, what I'll do, I'll grab his details. I'll grab his IP, and I'll know, yes, okay, so we have, okay, yes, voice is audible. Fine. We have few attackers who are monitoring our server, who are trying to attack our server, and you can reverse attack them, you can block them, you can do whatever you want. Right? So what is our objective here? Our objective is, we will do this from our computer, we'll do this from Kali Linux. Right? Kali Linux, my IP address is 192.168.0.7. I hope this is my IP address, which we have seen yesterday. Yes. So is it possible to find a honeypot? Yes, it is possible. It is possible to find a honeypot. We have so many sites for that. I'll tell you that. This is my IP address. Actually, my Kali Linux is secure. It is secure. I have only port 80 and port 443 open. I have no other ports which is open. Right? Now, what we'll do, we'll try to open up any port. You can try to open, we'll open telnet port, right? We'll try to open port number 23, and we'll project that this particular port is open, and from our Windows computer, Windows 10 computer here, we'll try to connect to this port. Fine. We can try to connect to this port, or for your understanding, we'll take port number 80. That is a very basic port. Yes, we'll take port number 80. So from Windows 10, what you do, you open up a browser and you try to connect to Kali Linux 10.7. You try to connect to Kali Linux. When you try to connect Kali Linux, this is actually a honeypot which is running on port 80. We have enabled port number 80. So what will happen? It will show us that 192.168.0.3, it will show intrusion attempt detected. It will show intrusion attempt detected from this particular IP address 0.3, which is a Windows 10 computer, and they are trying to connect to your IP address on this port. Fine. So now you can find the attacker. You can try to find out who is trying to attack or what he is trying to do, and how to open this port, how to set up, not opening the port. When you actually open the port, he can actually attack and he'll exploit your computer. We are not opening the port, but we are projecting, we are simulating that this particular port is open. How to do this? We have so many tools, and one such tool is called PentBox. PentBox is a tool which we have to install in Kali Linux. I'll show you how to install tools in Kali Linux. Okay, this is our Kali Linux here. We have our Kali Linux. If it is Windows, I know what you will do. You'll go to Google, download the tool, and you will click next, and it gets installed. Whereas in Kali Linux, you have a different version of extensions of tools. Say, for example, if XYZ is a tool, it can be .deb file. If XYZ is a tool, it can be tar.gz. If XYZ is a tool, it can be of any extension, whatever Linux-based extension. But if it is Windows, it is going to be XYZ.exe. But for Linux, we have different versions, and we have different modes to install. To make it very simple and to make it very easy, we'll use git clone command. And in command prompt, I'll use git clone command to download a software from a website. And from which website we are going to download the software? From GitHub. So from GitHub, we have to copy the URL and give this URL to this command, and this tool, what we are trying to install, will be installed in Kali Linux. Fine. I'll show you how this works. It's very simple. Okay, root. So first you need to open up browser, fine, and I'll type honeypot GitHub, fine, honeypot GitHub, enter. You'll get a lot of honeypots. You can install any honeypot, but I think we will go for PentBox. PentBox GitHub. PentBox is the software name. GitHub is the place from where we are going to download. So we have PentBox here by this user. So I'll open this. Fine. When you open this, you will have about the tool. You will have README. You will have. It's an open source software. It is free of cost. So now what we have to do, after going here, you have to go click this icon called code. When you click this, this is the URL. This is the URL for this software. I'll click this icon. So I'll copy this. This is for copying the URL. So I'll click this icon and I'll copy this. Fine. So as I've explained, from GitHub, we went to GitHub and we have copied the URL. Now we have to give this in the terminal of Kali Linux. We can use git clone command. Git clone command is very simple. I'll give git clone, git space clone. GitHub tools, yes, you can trust GitHub tools. They can be safe to use. After this git clone command, you have to paste your URL. That's it. Git clone URL, the software gets installed automatically. Right? So I've copied this. Now I'll open up my terminal. Open up my terminal and type git clone, and I'll paste what I've typed here and enter. Okay, I've already installed this. So it says it already exists. For you, it will take some like less than 15 seconds. It shows this is installed and success. Right? So after this, what you have to do, you will have to type ls. ls is a command which is used to see the list of directories. So I'll type ls, and now see here you have Penbox which is downloaded. Fine. You have the tool which is downloaded. Now what I have to do, I have to go inside the folder. So I'll type cd and Penbox. Fine. Enter. So it has entered this particular folder here. Now again ls to see the contents of the folder. Yes, we have a lot of contents like this, and here is our executable here. So in order to run the tool, what should I do? I'll type ./penbox.rb, right? ./penbox.rb, enter, and the tool goes like this, right? It's a command line tool. And see, you have cryptography tools here, you have network tools, web, you have IP grabber, geolocation, mass attack. Don't go for exploitations. Now what do we need? We need network tools, right? So what I'll do, I'll type number 2 here. I have to type 2 here, and I'll enter. I'll type 2 and enter. So now it is asking me, yes, what type of network attack do you want to perform? A TCP port scan, or a honeypot, or a fuzzer, or DNS and host gathering? We need honeypot. So type number 3 here. 3, enter. Now it is asking us, honeypot, okay, good, we can run a honeypot. Do you want to go for a fast auto configuration, or you want to go for a manual configuration? When you go for fast auto configuration, what will happen? Honeypot will assign by default port number 80, right? So it will show that port number 80 is open by default. In case if you have any specific port which you want to open, right, you can go for manual configuration, where it will ask what is your port number, fine, and do you want to open this port? Yes, no, simple configuration. So for our understanding, we'll go with the first option. 1, enter. See, now honeypot is activated on port number 80, and it is waiting. It is waiting for what? It is waiting for anyone to connect, or who is trying to attack or trying to scan my IP address. You can implement this in your website to find out if there is any attack or any intrusion which is happening. In case if it happens, I'll show you how you will get the output here. So now I'll type if config. What is my IP address? My IP address is 0.7. Kali Linux IP address is 0.7. And in this IP address, port number 80, I have activated honeypot. Yes. So now I'll go to my browser here. This is my Windows 10 browser. Yes. Windows 10 browser. I'll try to connect to this 192.168.0.7. I'm trying to initiate a connection through the browser. So automatically it will initiate a connection in port number 80. Yes. Port number 80. So what is going to happen? I'll enter this. It is trying to connect. It says access denied, login failed. This kind of results we usually see: permission denied, access denied. We usually see in internet. Fine. So when you go back to your Kali Linux, see here it says intrusion attempt detected. From which IP address? From this particular IP address. Fine. And from the host 0.7, what is the user agent? User agent is Windows 10. Yes, user agent is Windows 10, and it's a 64-bit operating system. And when you scroll down, it is going to give you a lot of other information. Right? This is for your understanding, a simplest honeypot which you can enable. So when you go for exploitations, right? When you go for exploitations, or when you're trying some attack, when you try some attack and in internet, and you're performing an attack in internet, and you're performing a scan, right? You're performing a scan, and you have this particular IP address. This IP address is 210.1.2.3. You have this IP address, and when you see this IP address, a specific port is open, and you're very happy here. Why? Because you have a port which is open, and when you try to exploit, you should be careful. You should be careful to make sure whether this IP address, this is a honeypot, or is it a, they can reverse attack you and compromise your computer. That can happen, right? Reverse attack is 100% possible in case if this particular IP address, they have set up a honeypot and they wanted to attack you back, that is possible. So whenever you go online, please make sure you are going to you are going to verify whether this is true or not, right? And uh, in case you have your own server here and you wanted to manually configure a honeypot, you can configure it with help of scripts. You have a lot of scripts again from GitHub. GitHub is one source of place where you can get access to anything and everything, for good and for bad, right? So this is one place where you search anything, just like Google, but this is only for softwares. You have any softwares which you want to install or which you want to download, yes, you can go search in GitHub. Probably you will get a lot of things here. You will also get scripts, so you can write your own script or download a script from GitHub, and you can proceed further. Yes, okay. And Telnet, base with Telnet ports. Give me 1 minute. Telnet can be used for configuration. What kind of configuration do we use Telnet? Suppose you have a router and you need to configure a Telnet for this. You need to configure your router here. In actual practice, you have a router. I told you this router is connected to a switch in Packet Tracer. That is perfectly fine. You can also connect a cable. This cable is called console cable. Fine. You can connect directly to the router here and you can configure your router, or this can happen when your computer and your router are nearby. It's in the same place, so that we'll have limitations with the cable length. Imagine this router is in the 5th floor and you are in the ground floor. You have your computer here. So to configure your router, you cannot take your computer and go physically to the router and configure. Yes, but your computer is indirectly connected with the router. So now how you can configure this router? You can go to command prompt, open up command prompt and type telnet. Telnet, your router's IP address 192.168.1.1. You can initiate a telnet connection. If it asks for password, yes, you can give your password, and then it is going to log into the router from your command prompt like this, router. Then you'll type enable, then you'll get hash, then you'll type conft, and it goes on. So telnet is one option to configure your router. And this particular port number 23 of a telnet, it shouldn't be exposed outside. It shouldn't be open. In case if it is open, then it can be vulnerable for a lot of different types of attacks, right? Okay. Let me turn on my webcam. Okay. I hope you guys are able to see this in video. Okay, how to detect someone is using honeypot? You can use search engines like this, or you can go for online honeypot detectors, or you have online scanners. You have a lot of sites. Honeyscore.shodan, this is good. You can go for Shodan. Shodan is a search engine which can be used for a lot of different purpose. And here you can enter the IP address of any computer. If you enter this, probably it will show you what is the Shodan score of. Is it actually a honeypot or it is not a honeypot? So we have a lot of things which you can perform here. And I think we have come to the end of this training. I hope we have seen a lot of things in the past 10 days. We thought of including a lot of security based aspects, but then felt if the crowd is going to be a mix and match of people who wanted to enter into networking and people who are already into networking and people who are working as a network security consultant. So we have to manage everyone, and we have come up with a syllabus which started from the very basic and to cover few security aspects of networking, right? So I think you all have enjoyed this, and we tried our max to give our best. And also sorry about the timing. We didn't have any other timing, but it is very happy, like it is a 10th day, it is Sunday, and still we have around 800 plus participants. I really appreciate all your efforts. Thanks for all your love and support. And we also need, yes, we'll be sending the certificates in the coming week. Probably before Sunday, next Sunday we'll send you the certificates to the registered email ID. And Skype group will be active for one more week. I know people should have missed classes. They'll, after the training is over, they'll look for videos, and they'll start learning. It will be active for one more week, probably for 10 days. In case if you have any doubts, you can ask us. We feel troubleshooting is the only thing which we feel very happy about. Fine. So because yes, we have a lot of videos in YouTube, we have a lot of trainers doing great job, but when you look at something and when you wanted to try, and probably you might face some issues, you might face some errors. And if there is someone to help you out to troubleshoot all these errors, for sure you'll feel very happy. And that is why we feel, personally I feel, troubleshooting someone or troubleshooting any errors which you get is the best part of the training what we do. And yes, we take remote desktop of your computer, we ask you to do few things and troubleshoot. And when it gets resolved, yes, we all feel happy for this. Fine. And we will come up with another free training next month. This training is not our first training. This is our like third or fourth training, free training, which we are conducting. We don't believe in free webinars, which is going to happen for 2 hours. We never believe that. I feel like if it is going to be free of cost, and if it's a training which actually needs participants to get involved and to get benefited, you at least need 10 days or 5 days. Hours will not be enough. 2 hours of webinar can give you an insight of that particular domain. But when you actually wanted to practice, I feel it is minimum of 10 days is needed. That is why all our free trainings are not for 2 hours, 3 hours. It is for 10 days and 7 days, so that you get comfortable with the domain and you start practicing with that. Fine. So this network and network security was from the feedback for the last session. We asked the participants what kind of training you need. And most of them suggested network, because last time we did for web applications, website designing, and we did for server fundamentals. And again, yes, in case if you have any plans of any topic which you really wanted to learn, yes, we can come up with a training for that for sure. Right? And again, sorry about the timing. It's like morning. It's difficult for me. It's difficult for everyone. But still, you all came and you supported us really well. And we'll keep in touch. I hope you all have my contact number. In case if you don't have my contact number, you can contact me in my mobile. Please don't call and ask doubts about hacking Facebook or Gmail account. Instead, if you have any genuine queries, yes, I have been replying to a lot of people in Instagram about their technical doubts. And that is how we can, I believe that is how you can create a community helping others. Yes, we do train, we do have paid training, but free trainings like this will benefit a lot of members from the community who are financially not stable. We feel yes, that should always be there. And that is why we have not come up with a very basic topic of networking. For 10 days they have taught only IP address and computers and cables. No, we have seen we have covered almost everything whatever is being taught in the paid training. Fine. And yes, I'm there in Instagram, I'm there in Facebook. I'm very active in Instagram. In case if you have any queries, not only about this training, about anything, in case if you feel if you have any doubts about Kali Linux or running a tool with Kali Linux, you face with the error, please send me the screenshot. I'll come in Skype, even if I'm held up with some other place. I'll ask any of my team members to come in Skype and help you out with the errors what you get. So anything with network security, hacking, pen testing, anything, any doubts, or how you want to make your career, yes, you're free to uh, ask me in Instagram, and I'll share my contact number as well. I won't be available for taking calls, but yes, you can ping me in WhatsApp for your doubts. And again, I thank everyone on behalf of Prompt, and the behalf of our entire team who are very supportive during this pandemic. And we all are not sitting in the office. We are from sitting in remote places, but still our team members, they provided a valuable support. I would like to thank them as well. And I thank once again, I thank every one of the participants who attended this. We'll keep in touch, and thanks a lot. And Samita will now send you the attendance link and certificates. Yes, in 1 week of time, probably everyone will get their certificates. Thanks a lot. Thank you.